My name's Pete Wood, you're watching Hexham TV. Who are you?
Thanks, Pete. My name's Joe Morris. I'm Labour's parliamentary candidate for the Hexham constituency.
Joe, tell us, for those who don't know you, a little bit about your background.
Sure, thanks, Pete. So I grew up in Hexham. I went to the Seal First School just over there, then on to Hexham Middle and on to QE. I now work as a political consultant, and I've previously worked for the steel sector, where I helped to protect thousands of jobs that are essential to the UK's decarbonisation. As I said, I grew up in Hexham. It's where I'm very passionate about. I've got generations of my family that live here, and I've moved back to here myself to contest the seat.
So tell me a little bit about your role at Hamry Strategy as a political consultant.
Sure, so I work at Hamry, which is a cross-party political consultancy. I've got colleagues who are former Labour advisors, former Liberal Democrats, former Conservatives, and I work here as part of the Labour unit to give insight into the Labour Party's priorities and the Labour Party's structures, and to advise businesses and charities and campaign groups on what a Labour government could mean for them.
So do you see any conflict between your role at Hamry Strategy and standing as a Labour Party candidate for Hexham?
No, not at all. As I say, I work with people who are both former Labour advisors, former Liberal Democrats, former Conservatives advisors, and I think it's really important to understand where every party comes from. You know, if I win Hexham, I've got to speak for not just those who voted for me, I've got to speak for everyone in the constituency. And likewise, if the Labour Party are going to win in Hexham, we need to reach out and speak to people who have voted Conservative in the past, voted Liberal in the past, voted Green in the past, and voted for, or not voted at all. I think people are quite sick of the fact that our politics has become increasingly oppositional, and we want to have a politics that is a lot more grown up and a lot more respectful. So I don't see any conflict between my role and the fact that I work with very talented people from a range of political backgrounds.
How long have you been a member of the Labour Party, Joe?
So I joined the Labour Party when I was a teenager. I went to my first meeting shortly before the 2010 election. I think it was September, October 2009. My first meeting. I was made constituency youth officer almost on the spot, I think. And that was a meeting in Hexham Community Centre, and that really sort of set my political direction. I joined the party because I was concerned about the then Conservative leader David Cameron and his potential policies on the environment, and that environmentalism has always been the kind of lodestone and the kind of guiding point of my politics.
Why did you decide to stand as the Labour Party candidate for Hexham constituency, Joe?
So Hexham's my home. It's where I've always been proud to be from. When I look at the issues affecting the town, and not just the town, the entire constituency, Hexham, which is obviously a lot bigger than just the town, it's a constituency that suffered from complacency and neglect. And I think it's incumbent upon me as a Labour Party candidate and incumbent upon the Labour Party to speak to those issues. And I'm a big believer that, if you think you have a solution, you put yourself forward. I want to be the MP for Hexham. I don't just want to be the MP for the people that vote for me. So I've really enjoyed the campaign so far. It's been absolutely fantastic getting out and talking to people across the constituency, whether that's in Hexham town itself, out to Prudder, out to sort of Hayden Bridge, Holtwhistle, out in Calton and Throckley, and out in some of our more rural areas as well. I put myself forward because we need to win places like Hexham. We owe it to people in Hexham to put a strong campaign forward, and I thought with my experience of working cross-party, that I could mount a strong and effective campaign.
What would your priorities be if you were elected?
So first of all would be to fight the cost of living crisis. So under this government, at the end of this parliament, living standards are going to be lower than at the start of it. I believe that's the first time in history that's happened. So we now have a government that is costing ordinary people a lot of money. Rishi Sunak might have taken 2 pence off your national insurance, but he'd previously put tax up by 10 pence. So overall, tax is still going up by 8 pence. So first of all, fight the cost of living crisis. That means finding good, affordable, appropriate housing for people, making sure we have the infrastructure to support that, and also making sure that we have good quality jobs for people to come into, whether that's supported through local apprenticeships, supported through job creation schemes, working with business, working with small businesses. That's all stuff that I want to do. Additionally, I don't just want to be our first Labour MP. I want to be our first our first almost green MP as well. You know, I got into politics because of the environment. I got into politics to try and protect it and to protect the planet. I believe that solving the cost of living crisis, solving the issues facing the North East can be done in a way that puts the planet first, puts green jobs first. So that's crucial to me. Additionally, something that's very deeply personal to me is the social care system. I lost my grandfather in late 2022. And since then, you know, I've had my 90-year-old grandma trying to access social care. We're lucky, and she's had access to carers, but navigating that social care system it's labyrinthine. It's awful, and that's because of continued government neglect. So those are some of the things that I'd try and prioritise. You know, it would be the cost of living crisis, local jobs, the environment, and the NHS and social care.
So currently there's a majority in favour of the Conservatives for about 10,500. Is Hexham winnable by Labour?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the polling. Any seat is winnable. We are at a moment now where the government has been in office for 13 years. It's not bringing forward policy. It's not bringing forward things that benefit people in Hexham. It's bringing forward short-term political stunts. I'm absolutely committed to winning this seat for Labour. The reception we've been getting on the doorsteps has been incredible. You know, I've been a member of the Labour Party now since I was 18. It's been the most positive set of door knocking that I've done. You know, even people who are lifelong Conservatives or who are Lib Dem voters who desperately want to see the back of the Tories locally are keen to vote and support the Labour Party because they understand that, particularly with the boundary review that takes in Carlton and Throckley, that there is a chance to win Hexham and that there is a chance to do something to send a message to the Conservatives that after, a century of Tory MPs in Hexham, that we deserve better, we deserve change, we deserve someone who'll be a bit different and who will prioritise the constituency.
What's the one key message that you would like people to take away from this interview, Joe?
I think the important thing is that, Labour can and I think will win Hexham, and I can't do that without your support. I can't deliver the things that I've just talked about, whether that's, prioritising local jobs, trying to fight the cost of living crisis locally, trying to protect our environment, whether that's the clean Tyne or whether that's decarbonising our economy and addressing the issues in our NHS. I can't do any of that, and we can't do any of that unless people vote Labour.
What would you say to young people who perhaps haven't voted before? Why should they vote for you as a potential Labour candidate for Hexham?
Well, first of all, I think at 32 I still consider myself fairly young. But seriously, I think that we owe it to young people to put them at the forefront of our politics. Whether that's prioritising the climate crisis and making sure that the world that I grew up in is similar to the world that they can grow up in, making sure that we have access to the housing and the jobs that we need, the public services that we need. Those are all things that are incredibly relevant to young people. If you look at our MP who's just become the Transport Minister, and if you look at the state of transport in the Tyne Valley, we need to have a proper world-class public transport system here that means that getting to and from work for young people who maybe don't own a car is easy and is something that opens up opportunities. So, politics is something that is incredibly impactful to young people, and I think, voting for Labour is the best way to ensure that they have a bright future.
What would you say to people who haven't voted Labour before? Why would you encourage them to vote for you and for the Labour Party? Because elections are often lost on people's complacency. If they don't come out and vote on the day for whatever party, it can turn an election. Why should they vote for you?
So, if you want change, if you feel that the last 13 years have not represented the kind of politics that you want to see and not resulted in the kind of representation that you wanted to have in Hexham constituency and in Northumberland and the North East, it's important to vote Labour. We have a once-in-a-generation chance to win this seat for Labour, to deliver a message that communities like ours, that communities across the country that maybe historically haven't voted for Labour, deserve better than being treated as vote banks. We absolutely owe it to ourselves as a community to embrace change. I'm the candidate that can deliver change. I'm the candidate that can beat the Tories. And so I would say if you want to change, if you want to see the back of the Conservatives, it's absolutely vital that you vote for me and that you vote Labour.
Joe Morris, Labour parliamentary candidate for Hexham. Thank you very much for talking to Hexham TV.
Thank you very much for your time.